Podcast right now, and you get a behind the scenes look at exactly what we are doing. We are joined by special guest Seanna Ackerman, who is a cosplayer. She's a convention owner and all around goddess. I'm so excited to hang out with her, and we're actually going to jump into the podcast right now. If you want a little bit more, we're doing a little bit more in depth on the podcast, so come check it out wherever podcasts are streaming, and we're going to jump in and have our conversation today. So you ready? Let's do this. Seanna Ackerman, I am so excited to welcome you to the Toon Ladies Podcast. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
I love that you and I get to hang out in all sorts of different capacities. You are a professional mermaid, you are a cosplayer, you're a convention owner, and today we're talking about your tips for cosplay. So before we jump in, tell me a little bit about your cosplay life.
Sure. My cosplay life varies from just being a normal cosplayer that goes to conventions like Awesome Con to being a con owner and everything in between, because I also visit hospitals a lot for kids in cosplay.
And you just did some amazing photo shoots as well. So you've got all the bases covered when it comes to today's topic.
Yes. I'm a massive fan of photo shoots because there's only like one good way to get the full entire cosplay. And that's, if you didn't take pictures, it didn't happen, right?
Exactly. Proof is so incredibly important. And today you are bringing us some incredible tips and tricks for people who are jumping into the cosplay world. So let's actually dive in. I'm really excited for this one. The first thing we're going to talk about is the actual costumes and where people can be finding them. So what do we need to know when it comes to this?
Cosplays and costumes can come from anywhere. It just depends on your source. People go to actual dealers, and there's several of them. When you go to cons, you can find them there. You can find them online, read the reviews, because there's so many that will sell you something and it may not actually be the cosplay that you wanted, or people are now going to Amazon, of all things, to try and find their cosplays.
It can be really hard, especially if you don't have your own ability to sew things. And so finding quality costumes is really important. Do you have any tips when it comes to, paying attention to the quality of a cosplay?
Yes, I personally, the only things that I really make for myself are my accessories. The rest of it, I just don't have time to sew. I'm not one of those that I can full on dedicate an entire day to sewing a cosplay. For me, I go through a lot of sources. I actually have gone through Amazon, as sketchy as that may sound. As long as you read the reviews, that is so important. Just read the reviews of whatever cosplay you're looking at to make sure that they actually are legit. When you are looking for a cosplay, the best thing really to do is use your Google search options. When you add quotations like cosplay and then whatever cosplay you're looking for, like I'm right now dressed as Lady Hades, and that was my own twist on it. So I wanted her to have something like corsets and a black dress and have her be dark and have her be a little bit away from Disney's Hades, and kind of take a twist on it more like what you would see in Greek and Roman culture. So for me, I was looking up things that were darker. I was looking for corsets. I was looking for crowns. And I was looking for things like this necklace that had skulls on it, things that truly were more Renaissance-y, because that's just the world that I mostly live in.
Which I absolutely love. And if you are on our podcast, I do highly encourage you to come over to our YouTube page. Look us up at Toon Ladies. You can actually see the video stream from when we were recording this podcast episode, and you do not want to miss this costume because dang, it's like amazing. You dress fabulously all the time, and I'm very, very used to seeing you in your mermaid attire, but this is stunning. I love this.
Thank you.
All right. So costumes are really important when it comes to creating a believable cosplay, but so is makeup. And I know you've got some interesting tips when it comes to makeup, and there are some do's and don'ts and some major warnings that come with this. So give me the 411. What do we need to know?
So for me, I have a cat. So if you hear meowing in the background, it's my kitten. Being Lady Hades, I have a lot of animals to kind of take my cosplay into actual life. But when it comes to makeup, high quality makeup is important, especially when you're doing things like body coverage. So I do Harley Quinn, and I also am looking into doing other characters. Like when I do Lady Death, not Lady Hades, but Lady Death, her face is also white. When it comes to different creams and makeups that you use, do not go to the party store. Do not go to the Halloween store. I know it's very tempting and the prices seem tempting. You can find better stuff. online or just at your local Sephora store or Ulta store, they actually do have a lot of colors now, more than they used to. It's not just natural makeup. They actually have things like, hey, I want to be Gamora, so I'm going to paint my face green. Sorry, he's just wanting to go outside. So I want to paint my face green, so I'm going to get something that covers everything. Or I don't know, maybe you want to be The Mask when it was Jim Carrey. Whatever it may be, look online, read reviews. You can get things from Amazon, you can get things from Walmart, but do your research in advance. Don't get something that says, oh yeah, it leaves like finger streaks. Because if you want a more high quality looking cosplay, you do want to put the effort into it. And it doesn't always necessarily mean that you have to spend a lot of money on it.
That's a very good point, because a lot of people think they have to invest a ton of money into getting a quality costume, but really you can source these different pieces from different places and kind of build it yourself. And that actually brings me to a great question. When you are planning a cosplay, whether it's for an event, a photo shoot, or just to have for fun on Instagram, how long should you be planning on actually doing a little research, finding your pieces, getting those in, and putting it all together? Because for me, I kind of feel like I should be able to do that in a couple of days, but I also know the reality of the situation is that usually is not the case. So when planning, how long should people be planning?
I normally tend to tell people the least amount of time that you should be planning is a month out from whatever event or activity that you're going to be doing. So luckily in today's world, we have a bunch of different options than we did. We have things like Trove is a new rental company with costumes coming out, so you can look on there. But if you're looking for a very popular cosplay or something that has just come out, give yourself time in advance, more than a month, because more than likely people have the same idea as you. It's brand new and they're going to try and buy as many cosplays as possible or rent it. So always give yourself at least, like at bare minimum, a month, just so that way you have time to get pieces, because even if you get things from online sites, there's still the shipping time for it to come in.
Which is a really good point. If you guys did not see our live broadcast in March, where we were hanging out with amazing cosplayers just like Seanna, we actually had Trove costumes on the episode. So you guys want to make sure you come over and hang out, because we got the good details on how to rent your costumes or pieces for your costumes as well. Now, we know that costumes are important. We know the makeup is important, but we also know that when you're creating your outfit, when you're creating your cosplay, it can be a little bit different depending on what you're using this for. So, Seanna, I want to talk just a little bit about the difference between planning a cosplay for a convention or an event versus a photo shoot or something for social media. So break this down for us.
So it comes into play about, you're going to be walking around at a convention, right? So let's just take the convention view. Your cosplay needs to be somewhat comfortable to walk around in it all day long, which sometimes means I've seen cosplayers substitute masks that are easier to breathe in. May not be movie quality, but you can at least, I don't know, walk around and see and breathe. When it comes to photo shoots, it's a little different, because you want to get the best picture, right? And you can take breaks. You can take off your mask. And if you're trying to put an image at a convention, most of the time you want to keep whatever cosplay you're in or whatever personality your cosplay has. And if you're uncomfortable, you really can't do that. But when it comes to photo shoots, you have the time to fix your makeup. You have the time to put in the effort of whatever makeup or itchy wig that just looks phenomenal, but you don't want to wear it all day. You can do that with a photo shoot. So when it comes to building your social media platform, you want to have the best of the best in your front for creating your cosplay character. So I always tell people, I always call it my backup cosplays, because it's gear that I know I will be comfortable in, maybe not exactly movie quality, but I'll be comfortable in for a convention. Unless, you do change outs and you do a more comfortable cosplay and at the end of the day versus the beginning of the day. It just depends on how you want to plan out what you want to do when you're at the convention. But for photo shoot, always put your best up first.
I love it. And I just want to jump in as a professional photographer and as somebody who sometimes does things specifically for photos. I also like the fact that I, for social media, can cheat just a little bit, and I can do some of my makeup in post editing. And if I don't have the full outfit, I can hide the pieces of me that don't have the full outfit. So if it's front only, I don't have to show my backside. It's a great way to kind of cheat, but also make it look super high end. Now, we talked a little bit about the difference between going to a convention and going to do photo shoots. And we mentioned earlier that you are actually a convention owner. So give me some cosplay from a convention owner's perspective.
So going from an attendee to actually owning a convention is just two different ball games. You keep in mind things that you would have never kept in mind before. For example, with Mermagicon, we have 600 people that we have to take care of and make sure if people lose items, if people misplace items, if people have cosplay gear that they actually, because I own Mermagicon, which is a mermaid convention, so we have a pool. If there's things that they would normally wear for a photo shoot that they can't necessarily bring in the pool, like sharp objects or things that have beads and stuff that can get in pool filters, we have to make sure that they don't bring those items in. It's the same thing when it actually comes to other conventions. Whenever you check in your weapons, like you could use the really cool axe and sword and, you know, whatever armor gear that you have, you can use that in a photo shoot. But when it comes to conventions, you have to check in your weapons and make sure that they are actually okay to be around people. So that wonderful axe you may have, you probably can't bring that to a convention. So same thing with convention owners, because we have to think about insurance, we have to think about the safety of other people, and that's why these regulations are in place when you go to conventions. So as a attendee for these conventions or any cosplay event, you have to make sure that whatever you're bringing or whatever you're wearing is also okay for other people. And you don't have to worry about that with photo shoots. But
I love it. I love it. And I feel like that's really important because oftentimes people who are walking in as an attendee don't think these things through necessarily and sometimes wonder why they can't bring in the super sharp, pointy weapons when it comes to their cosplays. So here's why, guys. That's super important. And for those of you who are not on the podcast right now, the goblet that Seanna is drinking from is the most amazing thing ever. I do highly encourage you come check out the YouTube video, the behind the scenes, because that might need to come live with me. I'm just saying that's amazing.
Incredible.
I'm going to have to find out where you got that later on. This is awesome. Okay. All right. So let's take a step forward. Now that people are kind of figuring out what they want to do in their cosplay life, what they want to portray in their photos or at the events that they're going to, how do they then map out what they are going to be doing? Talk to me.
So when I first attended my first convention, which was AwesomeCon, I didn't realize they gave out schedules. I didn't realize they had panels posted online. I didn't realize they had speakers and everything of who's going to be there online. And I didn't do any research before I went to the convention. I was like, I'm just going to dress really cool and show up, and I'm just going to wander around the vendor hall. And if that's your goal, I mean, I still had fun my first convention. But then I realized there's so much other things that go on at these conventions. There's so many free panels you can attend. Now being a convention owner, I now understand free panels. But there's so many things that go on other than just wandering the vendor hall and looking cute and getting your picture taken everywhere you go. You should definitely plan out your convention. Plan out what is going on, what speakers you want to see, what tickets you may have to buy in order to go see those guest speakers, and also just seeing what panels are around. Because a lot of the questions that you may have of like, how do I personally make, and this is not something I can answer because I am not the best at do-it-yourself, although I did make the crown. They have different panels that show you how to make your own props. They show you how to show your own cosplays. And they have questions about people just like me who started as an attendee and then ventured further. Or people like Kelly Carnes, we talked about with Trove, how she started in her field and then progressed and now owns a company of cosplay rentals.
And I feel like that's really important. I just went to New York Comic-Con to sign books last fall, and I knew in advance that they had panels, they had guest speakers, they had photo ops, they had all of these things. And had I not known, I would not have been prepared. And I, as an author, had to do specific work. I had to do specific signings. But on my kind of a little bit of free time that they gave me, I got to go meet some incredible people, do some incredible things, and see some incredible cosplayers while I was there. And had I not been prepared for that, I definitely would not have had the opportunities that I did have. So I feel like mapping this out and really planning it in advance is incredibly important. And I'm just going to toss in while we're discussing this, because we are talking about cosplaying, because we're talking about how we need to be comfortable with this. As you're planning, this is just a little pro tip, life tip here for you guys. Yes. Planning your breaks, because you're going to need them.
Super important, because that uncomfortable cosplay that you might be wearing that you didn't realize you probably should have a backup is going to get really old, especially people who wear the full body gear like masks like Deadpool or Iron Man when they have the plastic costumes or even sometimes metal. They get hot very quickly. Water. Always bring water. I don't care what cosplay you have, especially if you have one of those that cover your whole body, but always bring water to a convention.
That's really important, honestly. And I've actually done episodes of my other talk shows where we've talked about preparing for conventions. So if you guys need tips, like bring band-aids, bring extra shoes, like, just the little take care of yourself so you don't die at a convention tips, I've got them for you in other episodes. Feel free to hit me up. I would love to direct you over to those because we want to make sure that you are healthy and happy as you are going into these conventions. But Seanna, I want to talk a little bit more about you and what you do as a cosplayer. So kind of walk me through your process when it comes to planning out Lady Hades or any of your outfits. What steps do you take when you do this?
So it all depends on what event I'm going to or what I'm doing. When it comes to photo shoots, I go all out. I will have every gear that I could possibly think of. I did a Viking shoot earlier in the year and that was fun. And over half of the things that I use there, I probably can't take to a convention. Or, I cosplay a lot and I go to hospitals and I go to cancer events for kids. And when you're there, you also have to think about what is safe not only for you, but for the kids as well. That if they got a hold of it, are they going to be injured? Are they going to, have to rearrange their day because you brought in something that might not work for kids? So it really depends on where I'm going. And from there, I will then arrange my cosplays to fit the needs of what I'm doing. So if I'm doing a photo shoot, I'm going to go all out. If I'm with kids, more than likely I'm doing Harley Quinn because she's the in thing right now through comic books and the new movie that came out. There's also a cartoon that came out, but that's more adult based. She is very popular for going into hospitals. So when I'm Harley, all of my things are plastic. All of my things have been tagged. They've been, basically passed so that way they can be with kids. And a lot of my stuff has to be more secure down, like my wig, because kids do touch and pull things. So keeping that in mind. Conventions, I just make sure that whatever the regulations are for the convention I'm going to, and they are online, so that's why you have to do your research before you go, I will make sure whatever I need to bring or whatever I need to do, I'm in regs before I go to the convention.
That's awesome. I love it. And I feel like that's really important to do your research because if you are going into a space that is not yours, you have to abide by their rules and you don't want to get turned away at the door. So make sure you do your research. That is incredibly important and ask questions if you need to.
Yep, because it's not just you, it's everybody else. And coming from a convention owner, a lot of the rules that we have in place is because we have to. There's just laws and insurance behind it.
Yeah, that's really important. I feel like, remember, it is not the convention owner's fault necessarily. They're not trying to make you not have a fun time. It is really legal and safety things that they have to abide by as well. And they want to make sure that everyone is having a good time at the convention. So there are rules that you do have to follow. All right. Now, before I let you go, I do want to know any last minute tips for cosplayers as they are jumping forward into playing in the Toon world.
Basically, do your research and whatever character you want to be, bring them to life. Every cosplayer is different. Every cosplayer has a different take on whatever characters there are. So be creative and do what you want to do. Don't focus on the competition of, oh, I got to be better than this other cosplayer, because that happens all the time. You be you, you be the individual that you are. And it doesn't matter what level of cosplay you are, just have fun with it. Everybody is here to do the same thing, which is bring characters to life and have a great time. It's basically Halloween, except like for everyone. So that's just my tip, is don't ever let seeing someone else's cosplay hinder you from wanting to do a cosplay. Do whatever you want to do.
I love it. It's all about fun, putting your own spin on it, building that community, and then learning and growing as you go. All right, yes. Seanna, thank you so much for hanging out with us. I really appreciate you being here. Before I let you go, can you let everybody know where they can find you online?
Of course. So you can follow my Instagram, which is Mermaid Seanna on Instagram. You can also follow Mermagicon, which is the convention that I own. If you want to be mermaids, mermaiding is for everyone. You should come in. I know KM has been to our convention too. And then you can also follow me on Facebook too, Mermaid Seanna. Everything's about mermaids, but I'll post every cosplay that I do on those sites as well.
And if you guys do want to join Mermagicon, this is an annual convention that is held every single February. Give us a little shout out.
Yes, because we are always looking for vendors and we are always looking for guest speakers. So just let us know.
You guys can head over to mermagicon.com for more information. I have been there before, and I will say it is incredibly fun. It's a great community, and there's mermaid tales everywhere. It's the best thing ever. I'm just saying. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Seanna. Cannot wait to have you back on. And if you guys have not checked out Seanna's episode of the Toon Ladies Talk Show, make sure you head over to our YouTube page and check out that video as well. Thank you, Seanna.
Thank you. See you guys later.
And so that was a behind-the-scenes look at the podcast. For the full episode, come on over to everywhere podcasts are streaming. You don't want to miss out on this or the other content, as we're taking a behind-the-scenes look at the world building, the character development, and talking to the authors, artists, and cosplayers of the Toon community. It is so much fun, and we would love for you to join us. You can hit us up at toonladies.com and at Toon Ladies on all the social media platforms for more behind the scenes. We are going to be meeting with more authors and artists soon, where you can come and ask your questions in real time every single Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Do not miss out. Hit the subscribe and notification bell. And we will see you guys over for all of the fun, plus daily chats on our Instagram. See you guys over there. Until then, have a great day and stay inspired.